All the lonely people, where do they all come from? Where do they all belong? The Beatles perhaps had a thing for existential questions. But long after the song came out, I think the lyrics are still relevant. They're worth thinking about because amidst all the clutter and concrete in our cities, an unlikely catastrophe is brewing. It's being caused by a quiet beast, one that could kill us. I'm talking about loneliness, and no, I'm not blowing things out of proportion. I'll tell you why. But first, the basics. What is loneliness? It's the gap between the level of connectedness that you want and what you have. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. It is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Says who? The US Surgeon General. His name is Vivek Murthy, and he's called loneliness the latest public health epidemic. This made headlines, but this information is not really new. Study after study has said loneliness is hazardous. It's villainous. Protected by a cloak of invisibility, it looms large. Today, a third of the world population suffers from it. 45% of the people in the UK are lonely. What about India? 65% of the elderly in India are victims of loneliness. In the US, nearly 50% of the population is lonely. What do these numbers tell you? The world is uniting in its profound sense of isolation, and loneliness is not discriminatory. It treats everyone equally, rich and poor, young and old, introverts and extroverts. Do you know what it does to your body? It increases the risk of premature death by 30%. It leads to health conditions like diabetes, heart attack, stroke, dementia, depression, anxiety. It is also linked to poor performance, both at work and in school. So loneliness is clearly dangerous. What's worse, it is hard to know how it arises. For some, it's because of too much work. No work-life balance leaves you lonely. For others, it comes with big life changes like a new job or moving to a new city. Then there's technology. It was supposed to bind us. Instead, it has socially distanced us. And talking about social distancing, the pandemic comes to mind. It was the last straw for a lot of people. The Wuhan virus made us cull our social circles. It isolated us, especially the young. They report a 70% drop in time spent with friends since the pandemic began. 70% drop. So the reasons may vary, but one thing is clear. Loneliness affects all of us at some point or the other. And this may sound ironic, but this knowledge is not necessarily bad. If loneliness is a shared experience, why not acknowledge it? Why not reduce the stigma around it? And as personal as the problem sounds, it is a public health emergency, so it needs to be treated that way. It demands action and policy changes. Countries like Japan and the UK would agree. They appointed a loneliness minister whose role is to exclusively look at this epidemic and curb it. Because government intervention can help. It can build a stronger social infrastructure. It can encourage simple steps like increased social connection, teaching children in schools about healthy relationships, subsidizing hearing aid for the elderly. I know it seems like this will take a lot of work, but experts say the results are worth it. We need to mend our social fabric because human connection is as essential for our survival as food and water.